thank you for having me speak today. As Janelle said, my name is Maree Sheldon. I'm a single mum to 3 miracle children. My son Austin, who is almost 11, and I have 2 daughters, Billy and her twin sister Darcy, and they're almost 4 years old. Austin and Darcy are both hearing, and Billy is profoundly deaf with auditory neuropathy. When I was invited to do a talk about leadership and advocacy, I have to admit I wasn't quite sure where I fitted in. How was I an advocate for Billy? So I actually Googled advocacy and realised that I've been Billy's advocate for communication options. I couldn't have done it without the support and the guidance of several organisations, individuals, and most of all, the deaf community. My talk is about acknowledging these people and explaining how they have assisted Billy and I in achieving communication options. Billy was born prematurely and weighed just 828 grams. Due to complications prior and during birth, she experienced a lack of oxygen, and it's thought that this may have caused her hearing loss. I first learnt that Billy was deaf when she was about 12 months old. Billy underwent a thorough hearing test at PMH, and when I was told Billy was profoundly deaf, I have to say a tear ran down my cheek. I was comforted by Nurse Wendy and quickly felt better. It was just a shock for me at that time. Wendy continues to be that friendly, familiar face we see when attending our appointments now at Perth Children's Hospital. Due to Billy's age, I was obviously required to make some big decisions. I was told about hearing aids, cochlear implants, Auslan and speech. But I soon came to the conclusion that Billy didn't have to be restricted to just one option. I felt, as her mother, it was my responsibility to set her up with options so that she could later decide what was best for her. I didn't want to close any doors. I wanted them all to be open. I chose for Billy to have a cochlear implant on her left side only. Her best ear is on the right, and I didn't want to take away what little hearing she has for a second implant. That, in my opinion, can only be Billy's decision. Initially, I had some PMH staff claiming that if I wanted Billy to talk, then she couldn't learn Auslan at the same time. I soon learnt that this was not true, and it made me quite angry that staff were misinforming parents. Fortunately, Billy's speech therapist at PMH was wonderful. Katie used Auslan to support Billy through her speech therapy. Billy now receives speech therapy with Peach Speech, based in Coolbellup, south of the river, using her NDIS funding. Peach Speech are very accommodating. Her therapist, Amelia Bell, visits Billy at daycare 3 times per month and provides Saturday appointments that allow me to attend without having to take time off work. Amelia also uses Auslan to support Billy whilst working on her speech. To assist me in identifying Billy's requirements and my decision making, I did do some online research. But I have to say I gained real direction after connecting with the School of Special Educational Needs, otherwise known as SENS. Billy was invited to attend SENS playgroup and their one-on-one sessions with a teacher of the deaf. Billy's twin sister Darcy was also welcomed. SENS has provided information, connections to the deaf community, and an introduction to Auslan, as well as general support. When we first attended, Billy's teacher was Cara Passy. I remember Cara asking me, what did I want for Billy to achieve? Speech, Auslan, or both? That was easy. My answer was both. Or as Cara put it, the everything approach. SENS continues to provide Billy with speech and Auslan support, plus she attends Lighthouse Littleys, which has given her a sense sense of pride and independence. I learnt early on for Billy to have the everything approach and be bilingual, she needed to be immersed in both speech and Auslan. Her cochlear implant and learning to hear was the key for Billy to be immersed in speech. But Billy also needed to be immersed in Auslan. This was more challenging for a hearing family. After taking 2 years maternity leave to support Billy during the early intervention stage, it was time for me to return to full-time work. I had to find a daycare that was going to help me immerse Billy in Auslan. I thought I found the right centre who agreed to employ a deaf support worker. They also employed a hearing educator that had good knowledge of Auslan. Unfortunately, the daycare offered empty promises about supporting Billy, and I didn't realise just how bad it was until Billy's support worker, Jessica Cosgrove, was brave enough to alert me. I immediately removed my daughters from that daycare and rang Murdoch University Childcare Centre. I will always remember the day I phoned and spoke to the director, Jackie Cannon. When I introduced myself over the phone, Jackie's response was, "Hi Maree, we've been waiting for your call." It almost sounded like a line from a horror movie, but in fact it was true. The deaf community had been talking about my twins, and I think everyone was waiting for me to take my children to Murdoch Childcare. It was the best move ever. All the staff either know or are learning Auslan, plus a number of the staff are deaf, so Billy is definitely immersed in Auslan, and so is her sister Darcy. I also get to practice my Auslan when conversing with staff, and when I thought it couldn't be more perfect, Billy's original support worker Jess was able to successfully apply for a position at Murdoch Childcare. To immerse Billy in Auslan at home, it was important for her family to learn the language as well. I needed to learn so I could teach Billy, and I found that her sister Darcy actually started signing before Billy, as Billy was still very focused on learning to walk. If only she was working. My family has been fortunate to have Rebecca Cant as our Auslan in the Home teacher. I first met Rebecca at SENS, and so I was excited to have her attend our home whilst working at WA Deaf Society to teach Billy and her family Auslan. Rebecca is non-judgmental with a great sense of humour, and she makes everyone feel comfortable as we bumble our way through trying to learn a new language. Billy's grandma, grandpa and auntie also attended the classes. Recently, I registered myself and my 3 children for family Auslan classes with the WA Foundation for Deaf Children. We attended each Saturday afternoon for 6 weeks, and the lessons not only boosted my knowledge, but they reignited interest for my son, and it was wonderful to learn as a family. I also believe it is good for Billy to see her family embracing her language. In closing, I would like to acknowledge that creating options for deaf children is not just about language. I recognise that deaf culture is also important, and being part of the deaf community is wonderful. The deaf community in many ways have supported Billy and I. Community has guided me, provided information, taught me about culture and language. And there is this feeling that the community is always looking out for us, even when we do not realise it. I can sincerely say that Billy's hearing loss has actually enriched our lives. Thank you.